Hi everyone, welcome to day 5 of our 30-day fit and health challenge. Today we're going to focus on the lower body with the lower body series. We're going to have 2 circuits, 3 exercises each, and we're going to go through each circuit 3 times. So what you're going to need today is a chair or bench of some sort, a towel, pair of socks, or some old rags, something that'll slide on the floor, and then potentially a broomstick or a dowel, depending on what exercise variation you pick. We are going to start with a warm-up. After that, I'm going to break down all the exercises, give you some regressions and progressions to make it easier or harder. Now we're going to go ahead and do our 3 sets of each one of our circuits. Keep in mind that I'm going to keep the reps at 6 for today. If that's too easy, bump the reps up to 8, 10, 15 per leg or per exercise if you wish. The idea is that we're going to start at 6, and then throughout the month we're going to increase our strength and our endurance. And then hopefully when you come back to this exercise, or if you come back to this video, you'll then be able to bump up your reps nice and slow as you get stronger. And one thing I'd like everybody to keep in mind as we go through today's workout is our first 2 tutorials. So make sure that we're really thinking about embracing the core and adding tension through the core, and then also screwing our feet into the ground like we learned yesterday. So we'll get started on our warm-up. We're going to start with 30 seconds jog on the spot. And anything here that's going to get you moving, get the heart rate up a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to switch up to high knees. So we're just going to pick those feet up off the ground. Okay, next up we're going to go with our butt kicks. Just 30 seconds, a few different exercises, get our belly moving. Perfect. All right, so we'll take it down to the mat or onto your floor, and we're going to do our TA activating drill. So we're going to have our fingers on that squishy spot, push our low back into the ground, feel the tension under the fingers build as our fingers raise. Inhale, keep the tension, and exhale. Keep the tension the whole time under the fingers. Inhale and exhale. 2 more times. Inhale. Keep the tension all the way down, exhale. If you need to reset, make sure that if you need to reset here, make sure that under the fingers is nice and tight. Inhale and exhale. Good, we're gonna go for the other side to let everything go. Reset, low back into the wall, push under the fingers, inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale, keep the tension. Inhale and exhale, keep the tension. Inhale and exhale. Keep it tight all the way to the bottom. Good, and then we relax. We're gonna get into our glute bridges next. Okay, so again, nice and slow today. We're only doing 4. We're gonna squeeze at the bottom, squeezing the glutes and activating through the core. Driving up, and then at the top we want to feel like we've got that tension on the side of the legs. Our knees are nice and far apart, our feet are grounded, and we'll come back down to keep the tension through the core. Reset, get tight, push. Think about pushing away with your heels. Keep the glutes tight, and come back. 2 more, nice and slow squeeze. Push away from the floor with the heels. Good, and last one. Big push, make sure we're pulling the ribs down here. You don't want to flare those ribs open. And down. Perfect. So now our last activation exercise, so the first two there on the ground were our activators. Our last activation exercise is going to be some single leg balance. So hands on our hips, and then legs straight up in the air at 90 degrees. Now if this is a little too much, feel free to grab your chair. Okay. If you are grabbing a chair, make sure that your inside leg, so the leg that is closest to the chair, is the one that we're picking up. And try not to depend too much on the chair, but just kind of have it there as a safety net. Okay, so you're gonna get in position. And we're gonna hold that up there for 30 seconds. Now as we hold that, I don't want this hip, that inside hip to drop. I want to pick up that hip nice and high. And you guys will see here that as we hold, our glutes are going to get nice and tired because they have no other option but to work here. So we're really waking them up. Try to keep your toes up towards the ceiling and that free leg. And then the foot that's on the ground, we want to think about gripping our toes, using the muscles in the foot. Good, keep both glutes nice and tight. Perfect. Flip over your chair if you're using it, and then we'll go over to the other side and lift. Good. If you guys have really good balance, where you want to increase how long you guys are doing this to feel those glutes kick in even more, feel free to. Keep that knee up as close to your hip height as you can. Good. Gripping the ground with those toes. Hopefully we feel the glutes burning and working a little bit here. Perfect. All right, take our chair out. And now we'll do some mobility, so a little bit of stretching here. Make sure joints are nice and mobile, ready to go. So we're gonna have our foot out in front of us. We're gonna bring both our hands to the ground and we're gonna rock forward to backwards. And we'll do 4 of these per side. Feeling nice, stretch. We wanna keep our back as high as possible. And now if you're a little bit higher, maybe you have your hand on the couch and we're not getting quite as deep or hands on the floor, that's okay. Okay, whatever you need to feel a good stretch. Okay, flip to the other side. Feel free to put an extra cushion under your knee. Come back nice and slow. Side of our mat here, so we're going to start on all fours. I'm going to kick one leg out. We did these adductor rocks the other day, but now as we go back, we're going to rotate and open up the toes towards the ceiling. We'll come up to the front and pivot all the way up to the toes. Okay, so hopefully you're getting a little bit of an extra stretch out of this. If it doesn't feel comfortable for whatever reason, you can keep your foot flat on the ground and do the same way we did a few days ago. Perfect, we'll switch sides. Perfect, that's 3, we'll go for 1 more. Try to keep your back nice and flat while you do these. Perfect, and we'll come back to all fours. I'm gonna go for a cat camel. This guy's a classic, really gets the spine moving nice and easy here. Look all the way up and then round your back, tuck your chin in. Trying to get your hips and your shoulders moving. Perfect, and now from here, We're gonna put the pinky finger on the ground and we're gonna slide it underneath our opposite arm as far as we can. And then we're going to open up the other direction as far as we can. So we're gonna do 4 of those per side. Perfect, we'll switch hands here, slide the fingers, and then big rotation and open. Okay, and then we've got our ankle rock. So because we know we're doing a lower body circuit, we can start getting a little bit more specific with the warm-ups that we do, targeting the lower body. So you're gonna have one knee on the ground, and then with your other foot that's in front of you, you're going to push your knee forward as far as you can. So we're just trying to open up through that ankle joint. And try to push that knee. Might get a little bit of a stretch in your calf. Good, try to keep your heel on the floor. We don't want to rock all the way up to the toes, or else we're not working through that ankle joint properly. Switch sides, same thing. Good, push that knee forward. Keep the heel on the ground. Perfect. Now we're going to finish off with our windmills. So this guy we did a few days ago as well. Okay, knees are bent, arms are out in front of us, thumb into the ground. We're going to trace that big half circle around the head and back. Try to keep that thumb as close to the ground as you can. If it comes off, not a big deal, but finish your big circle. Always focusing on keeping the knees together. Perfect, we'll flip it over to the other side. Good, one more. Perfect, guys, that's our warm-up. So now I'm just gonna go through the exercises that we're gonna do today. I'll explain everything, give you some progressions and regressions, and then we will get to our workout. All right, guys, so our first 3 exercises are going to be our box squat, a single leg RDL, and an assisted split squat. So our box squat we have done before, okay? We wanna have our box or chair behind us. We wanna make sure that we're screwing our feet into the ground, tilting the hips, pulling the core in, keeping the chest up as we bring our hips to the ground and up. So the reason I'm adding this exercise in again is to get a little bit more repetition. Now you might feel a bit more comfortable today to either lower your box or get rid of the box, or maybe add a dumbbell if you have one. All right, so try to, if it was getting easy last time, or if you feel strong today, you can try to progress that exercise a little bit. Okay, and if it was easy last time on the box, we can get the box away, we can have our weight if we have one, we can hold at the bottom. So the longer we hold at the bottom position, the harder it's gonna be, and the slower we go on the way down, the harder it's gonna be. Okay, after that we have our single leg RDL. So you might have heard this as an airplane, but so as we stand here for our single leg RDL, we're gonna get our balance first, we're gonna grip the ground with our toes, we're going to hinge the hips backwards. Okay, so I'm pushing my hips behind me, keeping a very slight bend in my knee. I'm gonna feel that hamstring stretch on the leg I'm standing on, and I'm going to relatively straighten out my free leg, pulling my toes up towards my knee. I don't wanna have them pointed. And then I'm going to come back. So a few things we can do for that one. We can grab our chair, okay? And then now if we have a chair here as some assistance, our inside leg is the leg that's going to go back, okay? So I have my inside arm on my chair, and I might even slide my hand down so that I don't have to twist my upper body. And then come back together. That's one option. If you guys happen to have a foam roller, this is another really good one. You're going to put it on the top of your foot, and then you're going to hold it with that opposite hand. And now as I go back, again, I'm getting my balance first, gripping the ground with my toes. And I'm just going to push that foam roller back with my hand, let it come up with my foot, but I'm keeping enough tension so that the foam roller doesn't fall. And then I'm squeezing my glutes on the way back up, okay? And another option, if you guys happen to have one of these snazzy red bands, or any other color band actually, that's in a big loop, you can put it around the bottom of your foot, around the top of your shoulder, and then again, this is gonna give you some immediate feedback. So I'm gonna get on my single leg, grip the ground with my toes, pull my shoulders back, and then as I go back, if I bend my knee or if I twist my body, I'm gonna feel a reaction from the band right away. So I'm just gonna try and stay nice and level, kick the leg back. Again, getting the same stretch in that hamstring, and I'm gonna squeeze my glutes on the way up. All right, so I have a few different options here. Give you guys some feedback as we're learning this kind of tricky exercise. Now, if you guys are very used to it, you can grab some dumbbells or anything that's weighted that has a handle, and you can hold them either in both hands. Is a little bit easier, or if you just want to go one dumbbell, it's going to be a little bit trickier because it works your balance a bit more, and you want to hold that dumbbell on the side of the leg that is going backwards. Okay? And then our last exercise is going to be a split squat or an assisted split squat. So if we're using assistance here, we're going to have our chair in front of us. We're going to split the legs so that when we get down to the ground, both my knees are about 90 degrees. So even if you want to set up on the ground first, okay, just to make sure you're in the right position, we'll pop the knee off the ground, and then we're just going up and back down. And you guys can use your chair as much or as little as you need. Here. So if doing a split squat with a chair is bugging your knee in any way, we can either stack some textbooks or any kind of books, or if you have a yoga block or something like that, you can put that under your knee. So instead of going all the way down to the floor, we might just be coming part of the way down, okay? And then as we get stronger, we can take away some of those blocks. Now, if that's really too much, that's not a problem. What we can do here is still going to be working our single leg strength, which is really what we're targeting. We can come on the ground instead and put one foot up in the air and try to do our single leg glute bridge here. So we would still be engaging the core before we start, squeezing the glutes, and then we're pushing through that bottom heel, getting the hips as high as we can, and coming down in control. Try not to just slam back down to the floor. And then if we wanted to make the exercise harder, we could take the chair away altogether, hands on hips, come down, and all the way back up. If we have a set of dumbbells, we can have 2 dumbbells in our hands, or if you just wanted to go for 1 dumbbell, I would hold it on the side of the leg that is backwards. Okay? Or if you have a band, okay, if you have a band, what we can do is we can step on the band in that front foot, and then it's going to give us some extra tension on the way back up. Okay? All right, so our second circuit of exercise is going to be an eccentric only towel leg curl, a single leg squat to bench, and a lateral squat. So for our first guy, this is where you're going to need your towel, your pair of socks, or something that slides on the floor. So put my feet on my towel here. I'm going to get back in my glute bridge position, and I want to be able to bring my heels fairly close to my glutes here. I'm going to start as if I'm doing a regular glute bridge. So I'm going to push my lower back into the ground. I'm engaging the core, squeezing the glutes, and then pushing my hips up as high as I can. Now from here, we're gonna nice and slowly slide those legs down to the ground until everything is flat. Okay, and then we're gonna just slide the feet back with our back on the ground, and we're gonna reset at the top. A couple things that are really important here is that as we slide down, it's very common for people to let go of their core, and then they're gonna start feeling tension in their low back, and they're gonna have an arch in their low back. So we really wanna think about pulling the ribs down here, keeping that tension and that slight little, almost think about doing a bit of a crunch here as we come down. All right. So then another option here, if that's giving you tension in your back or it's just a little bit too much, what we can do is we'll put the slider on only one foot. Okay. We'll have the exact same setup here, but now we'll just slide one leg down, and then that way we can control how much weight we put on there, and we can have some of the weight on our stationary leg. So instead of doing 6 reps in total, if you choose to do this variation, you would just do 6 reps per leg. Right. So again, here we would set up, squeeze the glutes, and you still want to dig your heel in the ground here. That's where you're going to feel the tension. We want to feel the tension in the glutes and the hamstrings. And reset. Okay. And now if these variations are too easy for you and want to make it harder, you can actually pull your legs back in with your slider. Okay, so here, same setup, same thing on the way down, but then on the way back up, I would dig my heels in without putting my hips on the floor, and I would slide right back up to my glute bridge. All right, guys, so our second exercise is our single leg squat to bench. So you're gonna sit up in front of your bench or your chair. We're gonna get that single leg balance going first, and then you're gonna lower with control down to the bench. And now here we've got 2 options. We either put our foot back on the floor and we stand up with 2 legs, or the harder option, we come down and we pull ourselves back up on 1 leg. So a few things you can do here to help with the upper body sway is have a counterweight. So any kind of book or maybe something from the kitchen that has a little bit of weight on it, if you can hold that in front of you, as you go down and push it away from your body, it acts as a counterweight and it helps you keep your chest up. Okay? And then again, here, either coming back on 1 foot or with 2 to reset at the top. Now, if this is giving you a lot of trouble, another option we can do is just a glute bridge hold. So then we can get down on the floor. So we can get set up here, squeeze through the core, drive through the heels, making sure that we're pulling the ribs down, engaging the core, and squeezing the glutes the whole time. And you can just hold that position for however long works for you. And now our last exercise is the lateral squat. So what we do for this one is that we want to get nice and wide with our legs. Okay? Chest is going to be up, and then as we drop to one side, you might want to twist my toes a little bit. As we drop to one side, that knee's going to track over the small toe. I'm going to sit my hips back. Okay, so very important here, my chest stays up and I'm pushing my hips backwards. I'll do a side view here. Okay, so what I don't want to see is this, where your upper body completely folds, or this, where you end up on your toes. Okay, so we want to make sure that we keep our feet grounded throughout the exercise and that we focus on pushing the hips backwards as we lower. If we want to regress the exercise a little bit, we can grab our chair and then we'll just have a little bit of support as we go down. And again, if you choose to do this variation, you can use the chair as much or as little as you want. Okay? And we can control the height, so the higher we stay, the easier it's going to be. The lower we go, the harder it's going to be. Now, we do want our end goal to be as low as we can, but if we're not there yet and that's something that we're working on, that's totally fine. To make it harder, if you guys have a dumbbell, we can add that. If you guys have a band, you can stand on either side of the band and hold the other end of the band in your hand as you do the movement. Or again, we could just slow it down and add a pause at the bottom. All right, guys, so grab some water. We're gonna start with our first circuit. We've got 3 rounds and we're gonna keep all the reps at 6 for today. So it's gonna be nice and easy. Our first exercise is our squat box. Okay, so we've got 6 reps here. I'm gonna go down, keeping the knees over the toes. I'm engaging, grounding my feet every rep. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Perfect. Next up, we have our single leg RDL. So either grab a chair, grab a weight, or you're just going freehand. Get your single leg balance first. It's very important. You don't want to start the movement while your other foot is still on the floor. And then we're going to hinge. Squeeze the glutes as we stand back up. Make sure we're keeping the shoulders back the whole time. 2, 3. Another thing is we want to make sure we're keeping the hips square. So I have a background in figure skating. When I first learned to do this exercise, I would always open up my hips. Okay, so that was actually really tricky for me to learn. So make sure you're trying to keep square through your hips and through your shoulders. Good, one more, then we'll switch legs. Good, keep gripping the ground with your feet. When we come up to the top, we can reset those shoulders if we need. Good, and last one. Perfect, and then our last exercise is gonna be our split squat. So either grabbing our chair, maybe grabbing some weights. Okay. And make sure that our feet, when we get down to the bottom, our knees are going to be at 90 degrees. We have 6 reps per side. Now nice and slow, push up. And at the top, we don't want to lock out either one of our legs. We want to keep a slight bend through them. Just want to keep them activated. 4, 5. Again, make sure you're pushing through that back leg. We don't want the hips to pop back. We want to push with the hips staying forward. All right, we'll switch sides. Another 6 reps here. Keep the hips under your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Good job, guys. You can take a little break. All right, here we go for round 2. Start with our box squats. And down. 1. Screwing the feet into the ground, tilting those hips, using the core. 2. If we're grounding properly, our knees are always staying stacked over our ankles. 3, 4, 5, and remember, we want to avoid that swing. We got to keep our weight over our feet before I push back up. Okay, our single leg RDL, 6 per side. Shoulders back, get your single leg balance first, squeeze the glutes, and then we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Switch legs. Grounding through the foot, squeezing the toes, shoulders back. Engage the core. And we're off. Squeeze those glutes on the way back up. You might have one leg that's a little easier or harder than the other, and that's normal. Ground those feet, squeeze the glutes, feel that hamstring stretch, and push back up. Perfect. And then our last guy are split squats. Hands on hips, or your chair, or your dumbbells. Okay, shoulders back, drop that back knee. Now again, if you have knee pain, we do not want to push that knee too far forward, okay? Especially if you're feeling something through this front leg. The quads are working really hard right now, so we want to make sure that we're dipping backwards, keeping that knee in line with the heel. Okay, especially if you have any kind of knee pain or coming back from a knee injury. Otherwise, you've got a little bit more laxity if that knee goes forward. And perfect. Switch legs. Grounding through the feet in the ground, shoulders back. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Awesome. That is round 2. Take a little break here. We'll come back for round 3. All right, guys, round 3, here we go. Last one, and we switch up our exercises. So I'm grounding my feet into the ground, pulling my ribs down, squeezing my glutes. As much as we can, if we can just touch the bench and not actually transfer very much weight, it's gonna help everything stay tight, and it'll make that exercise a little harder. Good, 5, and 6. Perfect. Our single leg RDLs. Set up. I'm going to get my foot grounded, toes are tight, shoulders back. Soft bend in that knee that I'm standing on, remember? And reach. Good. 1. 2. 3. Keep trying to pull those toes up to your knees on that free leg. 4, 5, and 6. Good. We'll switch legs. Grip the ground with your toes. Get nice and balanced before we go. And then we hinge. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Keep that back nice and flat the whole time. We want to keep those shoulders pulled back. We want to keep the head neutral as well. So try not to crank your chin down or stare up too high. Good. Squeeze and come back. Perfect. That's 6. Now our last exercise of this circuit. Got our split squat stance. And 6 per leg. Drop. Push back up. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Perfect. We'll switch legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Awesome. Job, guys. That is our first circuit. Take a little bit of a break here, and then we'll come back for circuit number 2. All right, guys, here we go. Circuit number 2. We're going to start with our eccentric towel leg curls. Get set up on the floor here. We're going to engage the core first, flatten out our back, push through the heels to lift up the hips, and then nice and slow, we're going to try and keep a 3 to 5 second tempo as we lower, and then drop the hips to the floor. Reset. Engage, push, lower, 3, 4. Good. Drop, reset. That was 2. Nice and slow. Keep squeezing the glutes. Keep pushing through the heels. Drop at the bottom. Good. Keep the core core nice and tight here. We don't want to feel anything in the low back. Okay, that's 4. 2 more. Drive through the heels, squeeze the glutes, drop, and last one. Flatten out your back first. Push the hips up. And keeping the tempo nice and slow. So we drop at the bottom. Good job, guys. All right, next up we have our single leg squat to bench. We're gonna do 6 reps per side. We can get our single leg balance first. We're picking up that outside hip. And we're gonna drop as slow as we can and push back up, okay? Now if you're dropping and you fall at the bottom, let's elevate that surface a little bit so we can get control all the way to the bottom. Okay, balance, touch, push back up, that's 2. Touch, and back up 3. 4. 5, and again, we could be coming up on 2 feet as well. 6, good. Switch legs, it's all about that downward motion, keeping that in control, keeping the tension through the leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep those shoulders back. Again, we could have our counterweight as well. 6. All right, number 3 here, we've got our split squat. So we can get as wide as we can here. Now, if you guys are kind of like shoulder, just past your shoulder width apart, you can give yourself a little bit more room, all right? Nice and tall, I'm gonna push my hips backwards. I'm gonna let my knee drop outwards. I don't want it to stay caved inside the big toe. And drive up. Again, that's 1 and 1. 2, keeping my chest up nice and high. Chest up nice and high, 2. 3. Now that counterweight here could work really well in the squat as well if you guys do feel like your chest is falling forwards a bit too much. 4. 4. 5. 5. 6. And 6. Perfect. Good job, guys. That is round 1. Little break. We'll come back for set number 2. All right, guys, set number 2. Here we go. We'll get set up for our eccentric only leg curls. Flatten out that back. Squeeze the glutes. Push through the heels. And come down nice and slow. Keep driving through those heels until we drop the hips to the ground. Reset. 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. That's 2. Good. That's 3. Reset every time. Low back, nice and tight to the wall, to the ground. We're engaging our core. Squeeze your bum as hard as you can, all the way down. Try to keep that control. Good. That's 4. Good. 5. Last one. Reset. Get in a good position first. Squeeze the glutes. Drive through the heels. And control that downwards motion. Good. All right, exercise number 2, into our single leg squats. I'm gonna get my balance, roll my shoulders back, and here we go. 1. Again, that knee, super important. Never let it come in towards your big toe. Always driving it out towards the small toe. We've got our feet grounded. 4. 5. Again, we could be coming up on 1 leg here. We're coming up on 2 legs here, sorry, whichever one is your variation. Switch legs. Grounded, chest up, and control. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. to our lateral lunges, or lateral squats, sorry. Nice and wide with the legs. Get nice and tall. We're squeezing through the glutes here. We're still activating the core. And to push the hips back as we go down. 1, 2. Sorry, I should say that is 2, 3, 3, 4, shoulders back. Drive that knee out over the toe. 5, 6, and 6. Awesome. Another little break here, guys. We're gonna come back for round 3, and then we're good for the day. All right, guys, hope you're ready for our last set here. We can get going on our eccentric only leg curls. Let's get grounded. Push that low back into the floor. Drive the hips up and down, nice and slow. Keep that control. Reset, up. Push the heels into the ground as much as you can. The more pressure you create through your heels, the more pressure you'll create through your posterior chain. Reset. Squeeze the glutes, squeeze the glutes. Perfect, that's 3. That's 4. That is 5. And then our last one here, big reset. Squeeze through the core, squeeze the glutes. Drive the heels in the ground as we control all the way down. Perfect. Single leg squat to bench is up next. Okay, get my single leg balance. And I'm gonna control down, drive back up 1. 2, control that knee. 4, 5, and 6. Good, switch to the other side. Gripping the ground into the floor, I'm grounding my foot. Squeezing my glutes, activating through my core. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Awesome. Last guy here. Get our feet nice and wide. Roll the shoulders back. Good posture before we start squeezing the glutes, engaging the core, and push those hips back. Still want to think about sitting into a chair here. 1, 2, 3. Good job, guys. Almost there. Keep that control. Nice little pause at the bottom. I want to stay really, really tight at the bottom. Last rep. Shoulders back. Keep looking forward. And all right, guys. Good job. That's it for day 5. I would recommend doing a bit of a stretch, maybe going for a little walk outside as a cool down. And I will see you tomorrow for day 6. We've got a mobility day coming up.